Daniella Ponticelli is with us from the CBC's Olympic coverage. Do you got a favorite live concert you've been to?
I've been to so many, thankfully, very blessed there. I got to say, the country shows are always up there. I think the first time I saw Thomas Rhett, I had zero expectations and then fell in love with him. So he's up there. Good time. But I'm going to draw some heat for this, but I was quite young at the time and I went to a Nickelback show. And it's still one of my favorites.
Yes.
I remember being so pleasantly surprised. The pyro was great. The energy was great. So, I'm definitely not like a hardcore Nickelback fan, but I don't hate them and they put on a great show. So there you go.
Okay. Well, they did the halftime of the Grey Cup, and I don't remember what year it was, but I just remember watching on TV, and I'm like, they sound so good live. And that was
Absolutely.
Zach Brown on the weekend sounded like better than I would have imagined, and I would rather listen to him live than on streaming, where Kenny Chesney was like running around. I was saying he's running around like he's 19, sweating, out of breath, didn't sound as good, but more entertaining, if that makes sense.
It's incredible.
So
right? Yeah, absolutely. And I guess up there too is like Jack Johnson, because I'm a big fan of his, and went all the way to Wisconsin for this beautiful. Yes, in Apple Creek, I believe it's called, in Wisconsin.
That's on my hit list, like my bucket list is to see Jack Johnson.
So nice. Yeah, it was amazing. So thanks for letting me relive those memories. I'm glad you had a great time this weekend. The pictures looked amazing, so that was great. Yeah,
really looking forward to it. How about you? Have you had a chance to settle down yet from the Olympic journey?
A little bit. It was kind of funny watching the closing ceremonies yesterday from my couch. I may have had a hard time keeping my eyes open the entire time. It was just it was beautiful. And the music, just at some point, I'm like, okay, I got to stay awake here. But overall, what an incredible experience. And yes, a little bit of downtime. It does feel surreal that the Olympics is over, but a great reminder, of course, that the Paralympics will kickstart in less than 2 weeks. I'm not involved in that, but I do fully plan on watching and supporting the athletes the way that you can when you're just a spectator.
Yeah. So tell me about the Olympic experience. I know you weren't in Paris, but you were at CBC headquarters downtown. And if those, have never been or don't understand what that is, all you need to do is come to Toronto and go walk past it, right? Front Street, right? And it is, I don't know how to describe it. It is historic. It is significant. And it is the headquarters. And,
Absolutely.
You might as well have been in Paris, because I'm sure everybody was there. We've seen the photos and, tours from inside. It was like a satellite Paris location. So tell us about your Olympic experience calling 3x3 basketball.
Well, just before I jump into that, I want to just continue what you were saying. It really is an incredible, masterful work of logistics to think of everything that's happening at once and making sure that you have teams exactly where they need to be, sometimes pulling people. If Canada only gets to a certain point in one sport, sometimes then you redirect and that commentator's going elsewhere. It's just an incredible hub of activity, and to have just been able to witness that is amazing, right? To be around all those professionals and everybody doing their jobs so diligently for so long. And like I said, it's not over yet. Paralympics still to come as well. As for the 3x3 basketball, I kept saying I feel like I was the luckiest person. It was an incredible assignment because Canada made history. The 4 women who got a chance to compete with the first ever team from Canada. And the way it worked is for Tokyo 2020, a women's team for 3x3, they weren't allowed to qualify. There were some things going on where, because there was a women's 5-on-5 team, they're going to try to get the guys to qualify for the 3x3, and they weren't able to for Tokyo. And then for Paris, it was open, and Paige Crozen, Casey Bosch, the twins from Edmonton, Michelle and Catherine Plouffe, all Western Canadian women, by the way, they got together in 2019 and said, we want to really make a run for this. Part of the reason was that 3x3 basketball, the women's series, if you don't know about this, they can play professionally in the sense that they can win money at these tournaments and go out and compete all around the world. So that was part of the introduction there. And then, of course, the bigger dream of Paris 2024. And I can't say enough about what an incredible sport it is. It's so high energy, fast pace. It's not quite your 3-on-3 pickup game. It is 3x3 because of the unified rules and the sort of demands that it places, because there are very strict rules in place on how things need to be handled. Continuous play, some stoppages. You don't have any coaches on the sidelines. It's just a wild ride. And I think that's the part that I love the most about it, Darren. So thank you for asking, was actually getting to be there from the beginning through to the end. The Canadians made it to medal day, unfortunately unable to get a medal in that. But wow, just how far they came, how far they went. And it really is only the beginning of this discipline.
What was your day like, with the Paris? Because, I mean, we're sitting here and we set the alarms for like 3:45 in the morning so we could get up and watch some early stuff, then go back to bed till 7, picking and choosing what we wanted to watch. So what kind of hours were you operating in?
I was very lucky again. I'm just going to keep using that word because 3x3 is a nighttime event, even when it's structured for the World Tour for the guys and the Women's Series for the women. It's played at night typically. And so the same thing happened in Paris. Games there started 5:30 p.m. Paris time. That's 11:30 Eastern. That was a nice time to get going. Plenty of it. Exactly. There was just one day where Canada's session started quite early, meaning it was a 2 a.m. wake-up call. But to only have one day like that, I consider myself quite lucky because of the way that 3x3 was structured. That did mean in Paris, and big shout out to Kelly Vanderbeek, who was the reporter on the ground for 3x3. It was ending around 11:30 at night, midnight, right? Like it was long kind of evening sessions, but not for us. Eastern time zone, it worked out quite well.
That's awesome. Yeah. I mean, I was wondering how many of those 2 a.m. wake-up calls you were going to have, but just one is good. So how much of the rest of the games did you get to watch? And what stood out to you as your favorite moment?
Great question. I wish I could have watched even more because obviously as soon as you're done your day, you're prepping for the next and making sure you're ready and rested. But I did get to watch Canada win its first medal, which happened to be gold in judo as it was. That was super cool. I get to watch it in the broadcasting center was great as well. There's just big screens everywhere. You have the commentary on full blast. It was just so cool to kind of share that moment with everyone. That one stays in my mind. A lot of Summer McIntosh, and you could always tell something big was happening because you'd hear people all around the building kind of cheering and making lots of noise for whatever was going on at the time. So that was always fun too. And it was a lot of watching it in pieces. And I'm a big highlight kind of person. I'm watching it on my phone. I'm getting what I can. Really, really happy for all the hammer throwers. And Cameron Rogers might be my new favorite athlete of all time. She's so awesome. So those would be some standout moments. And of course, everything that's been memed was a lot of fun to kind of enjoy in the Olympics.
No kidding. And watching stuff and being in that environment would be pretty cool because you're all there for the same reason. Look, Ken is watching and writes in. He wants to know, how is the adjustment from working an event live, which you were still live, versus using monitors in a studio? And, what was your thought? Because, I mean, us watching at home, we can't tell. We just can't. So great job.
Well, great question, Ken. I mean, it is one of the realities of sports in a lot of facets, and a lot of places are kind of trying different ways of doing things. Obviously, being there is best. It always is, because you get the feel. There's just more to draw from. You're physically there. I will say with the monitor, what keeps you honest is you can only see what you can see, and that's exactly what the viewer sees as well. So it really keeps you kind of in that moment and speaking to what's happening. But overall, I'll say, I think being there is always best. It's just the way things are. And weirdly, you kind of get into it right away and put yourself in that moment. And as Darren mentioned, it was still live. So that part is always great too, knowing that everything you're speaking to is still happening in the moment, keeps you really connected and dialed in. So I will say as well, there were some days in Paris where it was 30 plus degrees and it was so hot. That was still the temperature in Toronto and sometimes in the booth we were working in. So the temperature feel kind of felt like we were there.
I remember you call. You're like, it's so hot in the booth. In the studio. I get it. I get it.
That's just a me thing too. I just run warm all the time. Like if you catch me at a hockey rink calling a game, I'm usually in like a t-shirt. It just is what it is. So summertime, calling in a booth, the same thing happens.
Yeah. What did the CBC serve you? What was on the spread on the CBC buffet?
Oh my gosh. Well, first of all, the food, hands down, catering. Thank you for feeding us all so well. It was everything. Like in the morning, if you had a morning shift, which we didn't typically have, so I didn't get too much breakfast, but there would be waffles, there would be eggs and bacon and everything, and there were vegan options, gluten-free, always great meats, some salmon. Anyway, now you're making me hungry. But the point is that we were really well taken care of, and it allows me to give kudos to the amazing workers, right, that keep everybody happy and keep things running smoothly here and in Paris. All the volunteers, that was really cool to see in the closing ceremony too. Just the big thank you to everyone who makes these things possible.
Daniella, awesome stuff. We're out of time, but this is great. Congratulations on the Olympics. You did a great job. It was awesome, and I loved hearing the stories about it.
Thank you so much, Darren. Appreciate it.
All right, Daniella Ponticelli with us, covering the Olympics for the CBC. Great job. The 3x3 basketball in Canada, setting a record. Most medals in a non-boycotted Olympics, most golds, 27 medals, 9 gold medals. Awesome stuff for sure.